Hey guys, Tonight Marine here with another video for you today, doing the Q&A. The Q&A. A nice short one, kind of pared down a question. I got quite a few questions through message, but the vast majority of those were repeats, so I directed people to go to the various videos where those questions could be answered. But let's do this. So the first question is, what are the medical options in the Marine Corps, like job-wise? The answer to that is there are none. The Marine Corps doesn't do medical things as a full-on job. Your best bet there, if you want to work with Marines and do medical stuff, you have to join the Navy. And you have to become a corpsman, and then you have to apply to be Greenside. And I've done a video on that as well, but I just wanted to clarify for everyone that there are no medical options in the Marine Corps, at least currently. You know, maybe sometime down the road, but right now there is not. The next question is, what are my thoughts on the whole, and this happened a while ago, but Marines pissing on the Taliban, you know, back in the day, a couple years ago, I think now. Personally, I have no issues with it. I think that the Taliban were killing Marines left and right, and they were finally able to get their hands on some, and they pissed on them. So be it. It helped to relieve stress. Those guys were already dead anyway, and frankly, they can eat a dick. Those guys behead people. They terrorize and torture women and children, and so I have no sympathy for them if they get pissed on when they're dead. It really doesn't bother me in the slightest. Question, where is it? Here we go. Is how's combat like for an arty man? It really depends. If you're going there and you're actually doing artillery, it'll be exactly like you've been training to do. You will be on your gun, and you'll be doing whatever position that you were set to do on your gun, whether it's loading the rounds, A-gunning, being the gunner, if you're the section chief, if you're getting the powder, if they call them powder monkeys. It just depends, you know, on what job you're supposed to be doing, but that's pretty much all it is, because generally artillery fires from far enough back. I mean, the ideal use of them is to fire far enough back to where they're not in danger of being hit by enemy small arms. The main danger that artillery has in a traditional war is counter battery fire, which means that when you fire your rounds, the enemy will have radar and be able to detect where your rounds came from. And so if they have an artillery battery ready to go, they can fire rounds back at you. So a big staple and thing that Marine artillery practices a lot, especially if you're in 29 Palms, you will get very, very good at it. And we were very, very good at it, is you fire, you know, your rounds that you're supposed to fire, and then you pick up all your shit, get your gun hooked up to the truck, and you leave. Because generally you just have a couple minutes, if that, for them to be able to backtrack where your rounds came from, and then load up the gun, do all the math to figure out where the gun should be pointed, and then fire back at you. And so you have very little time, and so it is a race to get your ass all your gear back on the truck, get it hooked up, and be gone. And without forgetting stuff, because everything that you bring to the field for the gun, you need. It's not like you bring shit like howitzer equipment that you don't need, that serves no purpose. It's all needed for some sort of reason. And so ensuring that you have all that stuff, ensuring that you don't forget anything, is huge. Especially if you know there's going to be counter battery fire, then your shit gets real, to say the least. But so if you're doing that, that is what your job is. It's very exciting. It's it's a go pace, which I enjoyed. So yeah, I mean, not a whole ton else I can really say about it. It is exciting. I love but hated those missions, because you're tired, you know, and you're in your 29 Palms, it's always hot, and so you have that sort of stuff. But the job itself, you know, picking up the guns, getting the gear in the truck, getting everything set up and moving was fun. I always had a blast doing that. Let's see, next question. The week before you ship, should you PT or just rest and relax? My suggestion for the last week before you before you go to boot camp is to rest and relax. Maybe go for a walk, you know, every morning, do a couple miles. You know, maybe stretch out every day, and just to make sure you stay limber. Just sit there in your living room watching some TV or something and stretch, so that way you kind of stay limber. But don't go running. Don't try to push yourself, because the last week ain't going to do anything for you to really improve any of your stuff. And the chances of you hurting yourself are pretty great during that time, because you're stressed, you're nervous about going, and all of that combined with you maybe trying to push yourself really hard, because like, oh man, I go to Marine Corps boot camp in 2 days or whatever, will just add up the possibilities of you getting hurt. And you don't want to twist your ankle or, God forbid, fucking break something a week to a couple of days before you're supposed to go. So take it easy, just chill, hang out, with your family and your friends before you're gone for 3 months, and just relax, because you'll be doing plenty of exercising in boot camp. During boot camp, what are the classes like, and what do they teach? The classes are pretty, they're kind of like a college classroom, where they basically get everybody into this room, and the instructor's up front, and they go over whatever they're supposed to go over. The issue that you do have is they will throw shit at you if you fall asleep. They'll scream at you. They'll do all sorts of shit. So obviously that's not like college, but in the other sense, though, it is just your entire platoon, maybe more platoons from your battalion. Sorry, texting. And you just sit there and you'll have a little notebook and you can write down notes for what they're going over. And you got to pay attention, because if they ask you questions, you got to be able to answer them or try to answer them. But they cover everything. They cover medical stuff, Marine Corps history, drill movements. They'll kind of explain, they'll talk about them, different gear. They'll go over your weapons. They'll go over anything and everything Marine Corps related. They will go over it. So, yeah, there's a ton, trust me. Marine Corps history, Marine Corps knowledge is a big one. So, definitely try to study up on that before you go. But you'll get plenty of classes on it, trust me. More texting. Where's the next question? Let's see. Have you ever had a moment where you'd rather just quit but powered through it? Yes, actually. And this was during boot camp. I've had several, but the one I'll talk about is in boot camp. Actually, no, I'll do another one after this. We're in boot camp. I don't remember which hike it was. I think it was the furthest hike you do in boot camp, which really isn't that long, to be honest, compared to some of the humps you'll do out in the fleet, but especially if you're infantry. But for me at the time, it was tough. We had our gear, our gear in boot camp, but the shit you wear in boot camp is not heavy compared to the shit you wear out in the fleet. But at the time, I didn't know that. And so for me, that was one of the most difficult things physically that I had done up to that point. And my feet were killing me. I had stress fractures all throughout my feet, so my feet constantly hurt. It just hurt just to stand. It hurt to sit down. My feet were in so much pain. Gotta love when people are texting me. It's always, I never get text when I'm not recording. It's always when I'm recording. Let's do that. But we're going through this hump, and you have to complete the hump. It's mandatory. But I got to the point where I was ready to say fuck it. I was ready to just say screw it. And my one drill instructor, my kill hat, he, for whatever reason, took a liking to me and was constantly pushing me. I would say more so than everyone else. It certainly felt like it. And he ended up coming up and seeing me. He ended up walking past, because this dude was crazy. He had a 4-minute mile. He was a fast fucking dude, and so he had no problems going up and down the platoon while we were marching. And he saw we were towards the end. We had maybe a mile left to go, but I didn't know that at the time. You get so focused on how much you hate life that you don't realize where you are really, or how far into the hump you are. And so I didn't know this, but it was about a mile out, and he came up to me and basically he called me names, but just the way he did it was encouraging, if that makes sense. He's some of the effect of are you gonna fucking finish this this hike, or are you gonna be a little bitch and quit and fucking be a puss like I fucking think you are? And I don't know, it was just the way he said it. I could tell that there was actual compassion in his voice, even though he was calling me a pussy and stuff. But that helped push me through it, and I ended up finishing it and knocked it out, and and right, it was done, so we were happy. But yeah, just seeing him actually show that bit of compassion was what it took to help me kind of just tough it out and ignore the pain, ignore how much it sucked, and just keep going. Because it did suck. My body hurt. Like I said, my feet were fucking killing me. I still have issues now because of the stress fractures. It's not nearly as bad, but they can be. Stress fractures suck so bad. And if you don't know what stress fracture is, it's basically a really small crack in your bone from stress, from standing on it too long. And I guarantee you guys will get them, the vast majority of you, especially if you don't stand up a lot during school, or if you have a job during work. If you're not standing and on your feet just all day, I guarantee you'll get some. And you probably won't know, but when your feet are just hurting, then it's a pretty good indicator. The second one was where I kind of pushed through, and I wanted to quit, but I didn't. Is we were out in the field, and I've done a video on this before. I think I have it under the Marine Corps playlist, where a buddy of mine ended up having a heat stroke, and he almost died from it. His body temperature was fucking ridiculous, and it got to the point where it was literally myself and a buddy of mine working our gun. There's supposed to be at least 6 guys working the gun, and it was just the 2 of us. And I was so exhausted, I was so dehydrated, and I knew I was overheating. We had no shade, we were out in the sun, and it was like 110 that day, and and I really wanted to quit. I did, because the rest of my guys, a lot of them had gone down for heat. They were throwing up. They were, dry heaving, because we didn't really have much in us to actually throw up, but they were dry heaving. They were passing out. It was rough. I mean, it was a fucking shitty day. And I wanted to quit, but I knew that if I quit, chances are anyone else who was still up would give up as well. People were getting burned from the metal that we had to touch to load the howitzers, like the ramming staff that you use. If you watch a video on the howitzer, the ramming staff is basically the metal pole that they use to ram the round up into the tube. And that was getting so hot, if you weren't wearing gloves, it would burn you. It was just a fucking terrible day. But and I knew if I gave up, that the guys that were still up and going, they would quit as well. They're like, well, fuck it, Chief's done. I don't need to do anything. Screw this. I'm gonna try to cool down, because we had no cool water. All our water was fucking hot as balls. Like I said, there was no shade, there was no wind. It was just a hot day. But I just knew that if I gave up, then chances are they would give up, and we couldn't afford that. We had to do our mission. We had to get the job done for our training evolution there, and so just kept pushing through it. And the great thing is, one of our Motor T staff sergeants, fucking cool dude, one of the best staff sergeants I've ever met and had the honor of serving with. He actually didn't go out to the field because he'd been out there originally, but then he had to go back to take care of some shit back in the rear, and I called him. We finally got done. Everything packed up, and we were getting ready to head back. But it was about a 3-hour drive back, and everyone was super dehydrated and just hating life. And our driver could barely stay awake because he was just so exhausted and so thirsty and so just everything. And so was I. Had the window down in the truck, because luckily the 7-ton we were using wasn't up armored, and because those you can't roll down the window, so it's fucking terrible. And I'm just sitting there just dead to the world. But I called him. I called the staff sergeant. I'm like, hey, staff sergeant, could you get us some stuff to drink? We're leaving Blacktop right now. We'll be back in 2-3 hours. We need something. Our guys are fucking hurting. And he's like, hey, roger that. Let's we'll get this going. And when we got back, first thing, we drove into the motor pool, and he had cooler after cooler. He had to have spent $200-$300 of his own money on Gatorade and like power bars to kind of give us some quick energy back. And he just gave them out to all the Marines. Said, hey, here, drink this shit. Drink some water, some cold, nice ice-cold water, ice-cold Gatorade. And it was just awesome. And everyone fucking, if they didn't like him after that, they loved him, after that point, because, that was just an awesome thing for him to do. Because he did spend easily, I would say easily $300. Now that I think about it, of his own money on Gatorade and the water and Powerade and all that stuff, and or the Power bars. So I mean, it was excellent, and he's a great dude. But yeah, I mean, those are 2 times when I didn't quit. Kind of drugged it out a little bit there, but that's the answer to that. What was the toughest day that I had in boot camp? It was probably that day I just referred to, where I was doing the hump, because that was really the one time I wanted to quit. Really the only time in boot camp I wanted to quit. The Crucible sucked, but you get so pumped up and motivated that you kind of forget about about how long it's going to be. Like you remember certainly, but you kind of put that to the side and you focus on what you need to do, and you just power through it. So yeah, I guess I really didn't. That would probably be my toughest day if I had to pick one. I hate drill, like we were out marching. And so in the days when we would do that, like literally all day, those were pretty fucking terrible too. But it wouldn't be the toughest day. They're just fucking shitty days for me. I just can't stand drill. I would never be able to do the silent drill team. Those guys literally drill like 12 hours a day. So nope. And the last question, which probably pertains to a lot of you, is can you use a calculator on the ASVAB test? The answer to that is no. No, you cannot. The vast majority of the questions shouldn't require an ASVAB, shouldn't require a calculator. It should just be, you'll have to write out some of the stuff, I'm sure, but none of the questions should really require that. So yeah, all right, guys, I appreciate the questions, I really do. As always, if you have any more, hit me up, and I will do what I can to answer them. And I will see you in the next one. Semper Fi.